want you to give me one example of socialism you think working well somewhere.
A good example of socialism working well somewhere, this is a really, really cool question. I think of Cuba in particular, very, very high literacy rate, number one. Number two, extremely strong commitment to public health. So that's one example that I can think of that would resonate with pretty much anybody in our state who cares about education or healthcare. Would you disagree with that?
I feel you,
People flee on makeshift rafts and die in the ocean to flee Cuba for the United States.
Yeah, and I think that is something that absolutely we have to be sensitive to. But you asked me about institutions that are working really, really well.
I asked you about places socialism is working, and you chose a country that people will risk their lives to flee from to this country. There's a reason for that, Sean.
There was a revolution in Cuba. That is correct.
They still do it to this day.
Right.
They show up on the beaches of Miami.
Right.
Because they would rather be here and would risk their lives in shark-infested water to flee the country that you just gave me an example of.
And if the situation were reversed, the injuries and the ailments that they sustain as a result of migrating to a place where they believe that they're going to be better off, I believe that they could be treated in a much better way than American healthcare facilities are currently able to treat people. So that's one example that I can think of socialism working very well in public health and in education.
All right.
See, this is what happens when you don't take the time to look and do your research on how people are actually living, and you're just going based off the textbook definition on what sounds good. I believe one of the worst examples he could have used was Cuba. Like, the moment Cuba came out of his mouth when she said what places socialism has worked and he started with Cuba, my brain exploded for a second there. I couldn't have kept it as professional as she did, because I'd have been like, are you fucking kidding me? Of course, since he refuses to educate himself on how socialism destroyed Cuba, I'll do the favor for him. Cuba's long-running experiment with state socialism since 1959 reshaped nearly every part of its economy and society. Many of the country's most severe problems flow from how that system was designed and enforced. Central planning crippled productivity. After the revolution, the state nationalized nearly all major industries and set prices, wages, and production targets without market signal. Farms and factories had little incentive to innovate or increase output. Shortages became chronic: food, medicine, and fuel. Quality declined because profit and competition were removed. Cuba grew dependent on imports for basics it could once produce. Rationing became permanent. Socialism promised equality, but scarcity forced rationing. Rations often cover only part of monthly needs. People rely on black markets. Access depends on connections and not merit. This normalized a survival economy instead of a growth economy. Two-tier economy hollowed out society. For years, Cuba operated with two currencies and still functions with dual realities. State workers are paid in weak pesos, while tourism and elites accessed hard currency. Results were doctors, engineers, teachers. They earned less than taxi drivers. Talent drains into tourism or emigrates. Professional dignity and productivity collapses. State control destroyed incentives to work. In a system where the state owns the output, wages are fixed. Advancement is political and not performance-based, and people rationally reduce effort. Agriculture collapsed despite fertile land. The government seized private farms and ran them through cooperatives and ministries. Farmers couldn't freely sell what they grew. Prices were capped below cost. The result of it is Cuba now imports much of its extraordinary outcome from an island with rich soil. Political repression prevented correction. Unlike mixed economies that can reform, Cuba's one-party system criminalized dissent, punished independent business, silenced critics who warned of failure. Without feedback or opposition, bad policies persisted for decades. External support masked failures until it vanished. Cuba survived not by success, but by subsidies. Soviet Union, cheap oil, guaranteed sugar prices. Later, Venezuela. When subsidies ended, GDP collapsed, blackouts returned, protests surged. The system could not stand on its own. And what this shows, out of everything that I've just stated, is that Cuba's experience illustrates a core problem of full state socialism. Concentrating economic power in the state removes incentives. Suppressing freedom blocks course correction. Equality of outcome becomes equality of scarcity. Despite high literacy and strong human capital, the system systematically wasted both. And this is years and decades of socialism failing in many different places. I didn't know this whole time I had this little black thing on my lip, but anyways. So it annoys me when people say, oh, it's not the policy, it's who's implementing it. Someone can get it right. No. Decades and someone hasn't gotten it right yet. Stop being a damn fool. Y'all just keep falling for what sounds good and never works. You guys keep falling for something over and over again and have now voted for something that over and over again has never worked, hoping a different outcome. It's insanity.